Welcome to another episode of the Pulse of Healthcare. Dr. John McCormick here with Peter, and today we're going to talk about kind of what's relevant in the moment. We're coming into what we call the renewal season for many groups. And like we talked about in our last couple episodes, people are getting sticker shock from the large increases in premiums that they're getting from a lot of the major carriers. We're happy to say that our groups have generally maintained their same rate year after year. But it kind of made me think about this morning was what is the difference between fully insured and self-insured from a business perspective, and how can you make that transition? Peter and I were talking right before the show, and this is one of the questions he talked about is how do you pull that switch?
How do you transition from a plan that you no longer want and it is getting more and more expensive, and projections going into this year are even 25 to 35% higher, but my cash flow hasn't changed. I still have the money I put for premiums, but I don't have enough to be self-insured.
Yeah. So I think there's two underlying things that we have to address here. First of all, we've got to remove the psychological fear people have to quote unquote self-insure, right? Remember, self-insured doesn't mean you're taking all the risk. You still have stop loss. Our stop loss attachment point is 50,000, which is pretty low, to unlimited, which is pretty high, right? So you're already under a self-insured model. There's ways to mitigate your risk significantly, right? So when I get ready to talk to our groups that are self-funded through us, they know three things. First of all of our services are flat, and we don't charge any more or less every month. Matter of fact, we haven't raised our rates in the last 5 years. So our administrative rates, our claims paying rates, what we do for patient advocacy, all have been the same. We don't charge a percentage of savings. We don't do anything. Flat rate. So it's totally transparent and flat, including the cost of stop loss.
We really, and people I've talked to about self-insured are afraid they're doing the paperwork. They have seen the insurance company do all the administration, pay the claims and everything, and they think that's what they're taking on when they go to self-insured, which is far from the case. We do the administration.
Right. We do all the administration. We do all the coordination of care and all of those other things. What self-insured does is give you, as the employer / now plan, a lot more say in what you will and won't pay for. Our role as their, like I said, fiduciary advisor is to make sure that whatever you're doing is compliant with the Department of Labor rules. So you can't say we're not going to pay for something when under the rules you have to. So right. Our job is to advise you in that role and say, no, you have to cover this, you don't have to cover that. But if you've had bad experiences, like we know that some of the hospitals in our area charge 500-600% of Medicare allowable for a procedure you can get down the road for 100%. So within your plan, you can designate in and out of network. You can add different deductibles or no coverage for out of network. Just the same things that you see the major carriers doing, where they're like, if you're in network, quote unquote, you get all of these cool benefits. But if you go outside, you get nothing, or you have a deductible or whatever. Same thing with the formulary, that you can say, you know what, we're not going to, these specialty drugs and things like that, we're going to limit that selection where we know that we can internationally source it or get a better price or whatever. So you're not just kicking the door open, you actually are starting to gain control. Well, what's that mean from a self-insured group? A lot of people will say, don't even talk about self-insurance unless it's over 100 lives. I think if you're under 100 lives and you're not self-insuring, you're throwing money away. I honestly think you are. All right. But we have groups as low as 25 that are self-insured, and it's totally a business decision. So our role is to sit down with you and say, look, this is how many lives you have. This is what we anticipate or think your premium ought to be to cover the anticipated claims that you would have. And then we would put that money in a trust fund. And the difference between us and Blue Cross is when we come up on a renewal for the next year, we're going to look at that data. We're going to say, here's what you spent. This is what's left in your account. All right. And we might say, we recommend you raise your rates by $50, or
Yep.
3% or something like that. But the group can say, you know what, we don't want to do that. And I'm not, okay, because it's a business decision. They're self-insured. So that means if they exceed their claims fund or what the anticipated spend is, they're going to write a check. Have we had groups had to do that? Absolutely. But it hasn't happened very often because we're pretty good at anticipating what claims costs are. Mm-hmm. And when it has happened, it hasn't been a significant amount of money because of the stop loss, right? So one of our groups, a little 25-man group that we've had for several years, every year I sit down with them and I say, wouldn't hurt to probably put a little more in. They go, nah, don't worry about it. And, one year when I sat down, they had to write a check for like $15,000. And I said, no problem. Wrote it out that day. Covered their claims. No sweat. And I was like, well, why was that not a big deal? And they're like, well, we've only saved about $1 million in premium since we've been with you for our little bitty group. So having to write a check every 2 or 3 years for $15,000 or $20,000 is nothing.
Yep.
So that circles us back to that question. How do you move from a Blue Cross plan that you might this year coming up on your quote, be looking at your quote going, oh my God, we went from $650 or $700, which is what we were seeing last year, to now quotes that are coming in over $800. I looked at a group yesterday, they're over $1,000 for just a regular employee.
Wow.
Their family rate was like $2,700. I'm like, good grief, that's more than people make.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people don't even make $2,700 a month, and you're saying that's the family price for insurance for a small company? Oh my goodness. All right.
One of the areas, Dr. John, that I've seen people with the self-insured really save some costs is customizing the benefits to fit their employees. When you've got younger employees, your needs are a whole lot different than if you've got middle-aged people or even older people. You can customize and pick the benefits that fit your employee base in the area.
And actually understand the risk and be able to anticipate the cost. So you're out 100% right, Peter. Yeah. And so back to your question, the question would be, if you came to us and you said, my rate looks like it's going to be $800. And we did our analysis, which we would do, and say, well, based on how we act in our direct pricing and our direct contracts and the things we do with bundled services and all the other money-saving kinds of things that we do, because our goal is for you to get great health care at a fair price, not at a ridiculously high price, all right? That we think we could do this, give you our platinum level plan with no deductible and no co-insurance, a whole deal, and maybe that's $600 a month, or maybe that's $550 a month. So my advice to you then from a business perspective would be take the difference between what we anticipate and what the big carrier just told you they want and put it in the bank, throw it in savings. And then at the end of the year, if you haven't spent it, throw a party, give your people a raise, bank it up. Those are all the kinds of things you can do under self-insure where you can control, part of that money. And then every year, if you think, if I just had that savings and I continued to build up that account, you could build up that account to your stop loss amount or greater. I mean, if you're a larger group, you could probably hit your stop loss amount 2 or 3 times, within a year just in your savings account. Yeah. Well, once you have that self-insured kind of indemnification in your savings account, then it's free money. All right, that's just straight up savings that you're getting, month after month, year after year. And it blows my mind that I've actually sat down with some groups that are 100+ life groups, talked to them about self-insurance, showed them on paper where, oh well, we can probably save you about $800,000 in premium next year, and they won't move because of the fear and the lack of understanding about the safeguards that are wrapped under the self-insurance plans.
That's, self-insured really means self-controlled.
That's a great way to put that. It really does. It means we're in control. We, the employer, are now in control of our health care, and we can add benefits.
Right.
Because we've had some of our groups go, "Hey, can we get?" Absolutely. This is the price for that. So you're really making decisions, kind of like options on your car, right? I want a sunroof. I want a moonroof. Well, great. I mean, there's the price for that. The dealership doesn't say you can't have it, right? They just say, here's the extra cost. Well, we do the same thing. If you say, well, we really want, instead of, this telemedicine service, we want that telemedicine service. Okay, well, the difference between this and that is maybe $5 a month or $10 a month. If you want to pay the difference because you like them better, it's your money.
Absolutely.
It's not my money. I'm just passing it through to that contractor. And that's the difference. When you give your money to the black box of the major carrier, first of all, you don't know how much they're spending on anything. And the second thing is you're never getting any money back. There is no savings account for you. It is, thank you for your contribution. Here's your rate increase. And renew with us because you're scared. All right? And I can tell you in all the years we've been doing this, nobody has ever gone without the care that they need. So, first step is let go of the fear. Second step is sit down and have a business discussion, right, related to healthcare instead of a fear discussion about healthcare.
They are in the insurance business whether they want to be or not. If they have an employee, which is where health benefits are now sourced, then they need to get themselves educated and to learn about the best way, most efficient way to do it with self-insured like we provide.
Well, I mean, as we talk about a lot in this space, the space that we're in, health insurance is not equal to health care. Health care is the actual treatment, proactively or reactively. We want to do it proactively by removing barriers. Mm-hmm. All right? Your health insurance is just a mechanism.
It's a tool.
It's a tool, like anything else. So we think that you ought to be able to, if your TPA is your mechanic, you ought to be able to hire the mechanic that you want and know what you're going to pay them to do your work, all right, to help you get the best care available. All right, and that's kind of it, and that's really what I wanted to talk about today. All these talks about renewals and people are freaking out. And, and it just makes me sad because I go, every year I hear this, oh, our rates went up. Oh, this is horrible. Oh, mama mia, this is bad, and then you go, well, are you going to change? Oh, well, we're renewed again. Okay. It's like, can't help you. Can't make you overcome fear. I can do everything I can to educate you, but I can't break the cycle of fear that you're in.
Well, if they continue to do things the way they've always done them, they're going to get the same results. It's a matter of take some time, get educated, and make the best decision for your company. And this is something they need to look into because they are in the healthcare business.
Absolutely. So if you're out there and you've got a crazy high renewal rate and you would like to get some options, please call us at Ovation Health, 866-549-4199, and ask for Peter. And we'll get your information and we'll get you started and we will make sure that you are in great shape.
And we are here to help.
Absolutely.
Call us.
Absolutely.